The US president is often called a Russian agent by his critics. Now, a congresswoman is being called a Turkish agent, and with good reason. The woman in question is Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar. The Ilhan Omar, who waxed eloquent about human rights in Kashmir, the same Ilhan Omar has now refused to recognize a genocide, a mass murder of Christians in Armenia, exposing her hypocrisy and double standards. Let's start from the beginning. Yesterday, the US House of Representatives passed a resolution. They recognized the Armenian genocide, a move to annoy Turkey, which has been accused of this genocide. Whatever America's motives, this killing did happen, and it must be condemned. Guess who refused to recognize the genocide? The so-called progressive congresswoman of color and member of the progressive squad, Ilhan Omar. She opposed the resolution. It passed with a majority of 405 to 11. She was among those 11 who did not support it. Why did she do this? I must read out her statement. Ilhan Omar says, and I'm quoting, "I believe accountability for human rights violations, especially ethnic cleansing and genocide, is paramount. But accountability and recognition of genocide should not be used as a cudgel in a political fight." Cudgel meaning the stick used as a weapon. So according to Ilhan Omar, recognition of genocide should not be used to settle political scores. What does that even mean? Don't pass the resolution. Don't call it a genocide because it shows Turkey in poor light. What kind of crooked justification is this? And a remarkable statement, by the way, does not end with that. The recognition, she says, should be done based on academic consensus, outside the push and pull of geopolitics. A true acknowledgement of historical crimes against humanity must include both the heinous genocides of the 20th century, along with earlier manslaughters like the transatlantic slave trade and Native American genocide, which took the lives of hundreds of millions of indigenous people in the country. So genocide should only be decided after academic consensus. And then the classic whataboutery. What about other genocides? Right, what about them? No wonder she's being slammed for her selective campaign on human rights. A few days ago, Ilhan Omar wrote in the Washington Post, the same Washington Post that called al-Baghdadi an austere religious scholar. Anyway, in her column, Ilhan Omar said that American sanctions against Turkey will be ineffective. And now she's defending Turkey by refusing to recognize Turkey's mass murder. Do you see a pattern here? Americans are asking if Ilhan Omar is on Turkish President Erdogan's payroll. Or is she partial because Turkey is a Muslim country? It's a crass but relevant question, I have to say. 2 years ago, Ilhan Omar held a closed-door meeting with President Erdogan in New York. The meeting went entirely unreported, perhaps because Omar was not in the limelight then. And then she thanked Erdogan for Turkey's support for the Rohingya people in Myanmar. Now, Erdogan has trashed the American resolution on the genocide.
In a way, they were opportunistic. I'm calling on the American public and the world from here. This step has no value. We do not recognize it.
He doesn't recognize it. Also not recognizing it is Ilhan Omar, the same Ilhan Omar who described 9/11 attacks as an incident when some people did something. The same Ilhan Omar who compared India's NRC with Rohingyas. The same representative who keeps slamming India's position on Kashmir but doesn't utter a word about Pakistani terrorism, not once.
Partnership with India is strategic, but it's also based on our shared values of democracy, religious pluralism, and the respect of human rights. Under Modi and the BJP government, all of these mutual values have been threatened.
Big words about India and its judicial system. Sometimes she gets carried away, we know. Do you know that she had to apologize for making comments that were anti-Semitic against Jews? Here's suggested reading then for Miss Ilhan Omar. She likes Turkey. She may want to read Turkish author and Nobel laureate Orhan Pamuk. He famously said, "1 million Armenians and 30,000 Kurds were killed in this country, and I'm the only one who dares to talk about it." The Turkish press, by the way, called him a traitor. Now, the Americans have recognized the genocide, with the notable exception of this congresswoman. Remember, Germany took full responsibility for the Holocaust, Turkey not yet for the Armenian genocide. Denial and hypocrisy can be as damaging as the very acts of violence they shield.